San Francisco Harley-Davidson shuts down after 100 years of business. This Harley-Davidson dealership at one time, just a few years ago, was the longest running Harley-Davidson dealership, family-run dealership in the world. Now it's out of business. San Francisco loses yet another business. Let's get into it. Here we go. According to news reports, San Francisco's Harley-Davidson, located at 3146 Mission Street, shut its doors for good last month. Closure appears to be sudden, as social media pages were still promoting deals and events at the dealership through the end of June. Just kind of all of a sudden, boom, gone. So what caused the dealership to close? The owners aren't disclosing, but there's been some ownership changes in this dealership over the last few years. And they're closed during the pandemic, obviously. But it's probably the same deal that so many other businesses in San Francisco have faced. You've got incredibly high rents. You've got crime going crazy. You've got people, there's less demand for Harley-Davidsons in San Francisco. I'm throwing that one out there. It's like, okay. Got a lot of folks running around with money. But is Harley-Davidson, is that the name that they're going to go with? Not in San Francisco, apparently enough for the owners of the current dealership to go ahead and we're going to keep going. They abruptly closed. And they gave basically no reason as to why they went out of business. Always makes you wonder when they do that, because normally they'll cite, rising labor costs. And it's like, okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense. But when you don't have any kind of reasoning, that's when you're like, did they have tax liability issues? Who knows, right? But there's so many different reasons for businesses to be closing in California right now. I mean, it's astounding how many have closed up shop. However, the dealership is shut down after being in operation since 1914. And in 2024, they can't make a go of it. They went through the Great Depression, right? Went through the Great Depression. They went through the Great Recession. They went through the pandemic. And now they're at that point, don't have enough finances carrying forward, whatever reason. Because if they did, they wouldn't close. They didn't close because, you know what? Yeah, we're just not feeling it anymore. Nah, business owners have so much money invested in their respective businesses that they'll keep those going or try and sell them or do something. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen on this dealership. It'll be, sold to somebody else. It's already been sold once, I think in 2018. But like so many other businesses in San Francisco, there's so many different ways that the environment itself can get you. Now, where is this one located? This is 3146 Mission Street. So let's move this over a little bit. So you've got Union Square, you've got the Tenderloin up here. So we are to the south and to the west by a handful of miles, couple of miles. So not a terrible location, but it's a location you would expect to have it's the southern end of the Mission District, right? Southern end of the Mission District. Is it a little bit rougher? Yeah. It's where you got a big commercial site like this where you can have a motorcycle shop. I mean, it makes sense that the shop is located there and not in Union Square, because that's more of a retail type deal, right? Rent's probably a little bit less expensive here at 3146 Mission Street, but it's in an area. I mean, any location in San Fran is, exposed to certain criminal element, right? It just is. We read stories from all over San Fran, and it's, not related just to property crime, not related just to Proposition 47. You got all kinds of stuff going on where people are just out doing shenanigans. And then you've got incredibly high rent. You've got a hard time finding employees. When you do call 911 because there's something going on, you don't have enough cops to go around and for them to get there and actually do something. How about just state income tax alone? So many regulations, so many different aspects of business that in San Francisco are very difficult to deal with. Rent alone is one of the huge ones, right? So let's get back. Judlin Perkins Harley-Davidson was purchased by Rich Gargano and Cliff Chester. Rich and Cliff also own West Coast Harley-Davidson in Salinas, California, its alternate retail outlet on Cannery Row in Monterey, and House of Thunder Harley-Davidson in Morgan Hill, California. So they've got three. You got three franchises. they're shutting this one down, San Fran. While the pandemic took a toll on San Francisco Harley-Davidson, the dealership believed it could bounce back. Being closed down, losing your employees, having some employees quit, I mean, any of those things are enough to drive a business out. You can't keep that stability. You might get a little bit in PPP loans, PPP grants, but if you don't have the sales long-term to make it go, and this is what happens. San Francisco Harley-Davidson did not give a reason for its closure. All right. You can let the mind wander there. But there's so many different reasons why in San Fran a business has gone under. And we see them all the time. Here's another story that is, I live streamed this one today. Harley-Davidson sparks boycott call for going totally woke with its DEI policies. In San Francisco, this would be viewed as a benefit. Oh, they've got great DEI policies. Oh, okay, well, let's go ride a motorcycle and see if this is something we want to get into. But what it's actually done is it's pushed away the typical profile of somebody who wants to buy a Harley, with all of the tech bros excluded. But do they ride Harleys? It seems like they would ride some kind of, I don't know, an electric scooter. Yeah, right? I mean, the loud roar, it's upsetting to me. We can't have that. Harley-Davidson became the latest major brand to face backlash over its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, with the conservative online influencer calling for a boycott of the iconic motorcycle maker, Robbie Starbuck. Now, Robbie, he blew up John Deere. He blew up, not literally, but also Tractor Supply by pointing out just how woke they had become. And the laundry list on Harley-Davidson is pretty nutty. It's pretty nutty. I'm not going to read them all, but here's kind of a little bit of a list. They openly supported the Equality Act, which would allow men into girls' bathrooms, sports, and locker rooms. Yeah, hard no-go on that one. That's kind of along the lines of Planet Fitness. Oh, you identify as a woman, but you're shaving on your face? Yeah, come into our locker room. It's all good. Harley-Davidson funded an all-ages pride event that featured a rage room next to a drag queen story time for children. Yeah, that's questionable. That doesn't exactly jive with the Harley-Davidson ethic, does it? The image. 1,800 employees had to do virtual training on how to become an LGBTQ ally. Harley-Davidson sponsored a LGBTQ entrepreneur boot camp. The woke CEO, 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗥𝗘𝗏, signed the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion pledge. Whatever, who cares? They made February and March months of inclusion because apparently the Pride month of June just isn't quite enough. We need some more inclusivity here. We need some more whatever it is that floats your boat. Multiple woke United Way trainings, donated millions to United Way, who made the United for Equity program, sent some white male employees to a white male only woke diversity training program. Harley-Davidson is openly working to have less white suppliers, dealers, and employees. Harley-Davidson partners with the yearly Pride Ride. The list goes on and on and on. These are all things that Harley-Davidson is basically accused of being involved with. And they probably have, because I don't think it takes that much of a deep dive, and you'll come up with so many of these companies have gone down this road. But then when you've got different, conservative figures pointing this out, that's when the backlash starts and they get Bud Lighted. Bud Light is now the third biggest selling beer company in the United States. They used to have a stranglehold on number one. So the shenanigans with Bud Light with Dylan Mulvaney, where, she's a trans person, trans woman, ish. And she basically had a TikTok account where, you guys know all this, they got Bud Lighted. The Bud Light drinkers said, we don't really want Dylan Mulvaney having her own beer can of Bud Light. This makes no sense at all. And now Bud Light is third in sales behind Modelo and Michelob Ultra. I don't know if you've had a Michelob Ultra. Things you can say about Michelob Ultra are low carb, low calorie. That's about all. And it's liquid. You can say that. You can strongly say that it's a beer. Terrible, terrible stuff. But drinkers of beer have had such a backlash against Bud Light for their woke campaign with Dylan Mulvaney. They're just not buying the beer anymore. And so is Harley-Davidson. Did the owner of the dealership here in San Francisco, did they have a feeling, oh, yeah, this is coming down the road as well? They closed down considerably before Robbie 𝗪𝗏 came out with, hey, look at what Harley's doing. It's not good. So there's something going on with Harley-Davidson. It's probably one of the many reasons that so many companies have shut down in San Francisco, because it's not a viable business environment. It's just not. Folks want to say, yeah, but AI is really coming into its own. AI is taking up all kinds of office space. I've seen AI companies take up a little bit, but this is retail. This is retail. And these shops are getting broken into all of the time. And you've basically just got kind of a lawless environment where if you're already not selling enough bikes, where you've got, a consumer backlash possibly going on. Yeah, any of those things are enough to bring your business numbers down to the point where you are not financially viable and you've got to close up shop. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened with Harley-Davidson. And that's sad. Bike shops, especially a bike shop in San Francisco, should be able to make it. I mean, you've literally got enough guys running around with money in San Fran. And you've got some consumer firepower in San Fran. Right? You just got a bunch of folks that make a lot of money that don't know what to do with it. And they're like, maybe I'll buy a bike. But apparently that hasn't been happening. Or you've got the other overriding factors where it just doesn't make sense to stay in business anymore. Harley-Davidson, over 100 years of business, 110 years of business. It's sad to see happen. But it's also one of those deals where I think a lot of folks would say, told you so. You should have got out earlier. Can't argue with that. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye for now.